Israeli citizens, right, with large sums of cash and plane tickets to leave the country the next day. And they're driving a van called Urban Moving Systems. It's like, this is weird, so they call the FBI. FBI bring these guys in. They run their names through their databases. They find out that 2 of them have ties to Israeli intelligence. Well, that's weird. These guys were there an hour before the towers hit. They're dancing and celebrating. And then they asked them, hey, did you guys have prior knowledge that this was going to happen? They said no, but they got polygraphed and they were lying. And then they end up holding those guys in jail for about 70 days, immigration custody, and then ended up getting deported, getting sent back to Israel. And they went on a talk show, and they admitted that they were there to document the event, right? Which means they had foreknowledge that the towers are going to be hit. Now, that's just one component. That doesn't account for a bunch of other Israeli art students that were caught all across the United States spying across government buildings. The DEA wrote a whole memo about it, where these Israelis were behaving like art students to get access to the buildings and being interns, and they end up getting caught up in aspiring as well. And this is all leading up to 9/11. Then you find out that the buildings were purchased by a guy named Larry Silverstein, cha-ching, and he took out a very unique and unorthodox insurance policy that covered for terrorism. And then Building 7 went down in a perfect controlled demolition style, nice and even, and it never got hit by a plane. That was one of the small towers on the side of the World Trade Center. That went down randomly. And then witnesses on the ground said that they heard a bunch of bombs, right? They heard bombs. The firefighters that were there on the scene. Then it gets more interesting. And this is something that a lot of people don't know, and I'll share this with you guys. Shout out to my guy, Ryan Dawson. He talks about this in detail. You guys should go watch the documentary Empire Unmasked, where it covers all this. I'm summarizing a lot for you. Another group of Israelis were caught out in Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. And they were arrested as a part of a document benefit fraud conspiracy. On one end, you're like, oh, okay, these guys have fraud documents, whatever. Well, they find out that those guys were intelligence as well, and it gets crazier. One of them had a slip that shows that they were at the World Trade Center a month or 2 before 9/11, okay? And there was a woman that was going to testify against them that at the DMV, because she worked at the DMV giving these guys fake licenses and stuff like that. She was going to testify against them on behalf of the FBI. Before she went to court, she ends up dying in a fiery car crash all of a sudden, randomly, right? Keep in mind, Mossad has the most complete assassinations of any intelligence agency in the world. That's the CIA functional equivalent for Israel. So you have this witness that's dead. You have these guys that were in the World Trade Center prior that are Israeli intelligence. They were there to do sprinkler maintenance, but the Port Authority who runs the World Trade Center didn't have a permit for them to be there. So what were they doing there, right? And then when you look at the World Trade Center, the way it went down, again, looked like controlled demolition, right? I interviewed Richard Gage on my show. He's an engineer. 3,000